Last night was the Braves' home opener, and a little rain might have cut into the tailgating time, but no such problem today. It's a beautiful night, perfect time for a burger or a hot dog on the grill outside Turner Field. Ribs are always a favorite, too, and Met fans, well, they're joining in as well. At Turner Field in Atlanta, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball tonight. The Mets play the Atlanta Braves. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Turner Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Braves. Atlanta winning last night. The Mets got some stinging news off the field before the game today as Major League Baseball announced that Met reliever Henry Mejia has been suspended for 80 games in accordance with the joint drug program. He was found with a positive drug test for a banned steroid, and this obviously is devastating news for the Mets.
It is devastating news. You just feel like it's such a selfish act. You know, you have a responsibility to your teammates. How is it going to affect the Mets pitching? Well, they're very deep in the bullpen, but Mejia was going to get a lot of big outs for this ball club. And with Vic Black and Bobby Parnell, they're coming back soon, but they're not back yet. And Mejia did some good work last year, so, you know, he was going to be a big part of that bullpen, even if he wasn't the closer.
Well, it certainly stung his team, and the team found out earlier in the day. Terry Collins talked to his team earlier today, and he talked to reporters about the Mejia situation just moments ago.
Well, it happens in the business, Andy, but it's a little damper. I mean, I'm going to be honest. You know, I love this kid. I mean, we challenged this guy last year. He stepped up and did a great job for us, and certainly this is a big disappointment. And you know, I always look at it as, you know, I understand everything about it. I really do. But you know what? There's 24 other guys in that locker room that need him too. So, and that's why it's real disappointing.
The Mets were already going to be without Mejia for 2 weeks at least because of the elbow problems. Now they'll be without him for at least half a season. Meanwhile, on the field last night, the Mets had other issues with their defense, particularly their shortstop Wilmer Flores, who had a very rough night.
Well, you knew it was going to be a work in progress, but last night was a bad night. Here he gets really his feet crossed up and throws across his body. That wasn't even close. Later, he blocks it nicely, but then rushes his throw, and that arm angle drops down. And then later, a couple of pumps really delays the throw over there, and that one errant too, even though Kadire made a nice play. So there are some real mechanical things that he's going to have to get better at. His footwork, and of course throwing the ball over to first, he's going to have to get his arm up. But more importantly, I think, is that the psychological part of it, Gary, is that this can weigh heavily on a kid who's offense first, defense second, and his defense is supposed to be just to catch the ordinary ground ball. But he hasn't hit yet. I think once he starts hitting, the defense will get better.
Flores is back in the lineup tonight, although Ruben Tejada is expected to play tomorrow. On the mound for the Mets tonight is Dylan G. Second half of his season last year was not a good one. With all the trade rumors and the talk about going to the bullpen, rather remarkable to find G in the rotation first time around.
You know, what's interesting is that he's always been good against Atlanta, but this Atlanta team is a totally different team, a team that swings, puts the ball in play a little more.
And the Braves will counter with their ace, their opening day starter, Julio Teheran.
This is an ace that no one hears about, but he's won 14 games each of the last 2 seasons.
So it's the Mets and the Braves continuing their series here in Atlanta. The Mets trying to get even tonight. He's gone. He's gone too. Mets will play the guys who are left. Coming up. Get in your comfort zone with the most advanced Elantra yet. Visit your Hyundai dealer today. By Verizon Fios, the fastest, most reliable internet. By the generously appointed Lexus ES and ES Hybrid. By Six Flags. Save big on Six Flags Great Adventure tickets at sixflags.com. By the United Mileage Plus Explorer card. And by Chevrolet, find new roads. Keys to the game brought to you by Hyundai.
Well, when you see the first one, Career versus Dylan G, Dylan's really handled Freddie Freeman pretty well. But remember, June 17th, 2013, he gave up that big two-run walk-off home run to Freddie Freeman. And the Braves bullpen under Roger McDowell has been flawless so far this year.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years. Watch every out-of-market game live on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more every night on every device. Visit MLB.TV for details. Gorgeous night in Atlanta. Temperature in the low 70s as the Mets and Braves get set to play Game 2 of this series. A little of the action outside Turner Field.
Yeah, that's right. Now, you want to take a load off your feet?
Good snacking opportunities.
I don't get the beanbag game, honestly. The tossing of the beanbag into the little hole of the wood ramp.
Well, you get points based on which hole you toss it in. It's not quite skee ball.
It's not skee ball,
no. Some of the fans in the standing room section out in the outfield here at Turner Field, enjoying the last rays of sunshine on a beautiful spring evening as Julio Teheran makes his way in.
You know, a couple seasons ago, he was 15-3 in the minors, did not make the team out of spring training, had a horrible AAA season when he had to go back. Ever since then, though, he's caught fire. 28 wins in his last 2 years.
You know what's been interesting over these first 4 games of the season, and we talked about Wilmer Flores during our open today. The Mets have played 4 games this year, and really you can make the case that 3 of them have been decided completely by defense.
I mean, those 2 games in Washington that Desmond gave the Mets runs, and of course last night where it wasn't only Wilmer Flores, David Wright with a big mistake late in that game. So the defense has got to shore up a little bit for the Mets.
Well, especially, you know, you're in an era where pitching is so dominant, run production is down, and every defensive mistake seems to get magnified.
And on a night where Jonathan Neese is pitching, there's going to be a lot of ground balls, a lot of action, and the Mets are going to have to tighten that up a little bit.
Let's check out the Mets starting lineup, brought to you by Land Rover, above and beyond. Last night, Lucas Duda got the night off with a left-hander starting. Mets are back to what has become their normal lineup. They'll go with a little different look tomorrow with a day game after a night game. Anthony Recker expected to get his first start. Ruben Tejada will get his first start. John Mayberry will be back in the lineup against the left-hander. But after Flores had the rough go of it last night, he will be right back in there tonight. And obviously every eye will be on Wilmer when he gets his first ground ball. And you know, it's a very small sample size. Obviously the Mets have played only 4 games this year, and Wilmer's made 3 errors in the last 2 games. But you know, this is something that you anticipated going into the season. You thought that, you know, Wilmer might hit. You didn't know what he was going to be exactly defensively, and you know, everybody wants to jump the gun, and you certainly understand that. But I guess the question is, how big is a big enough sample size to know what you have here?
Well, it's certainly not a big enough sample size now, but I will say, and we tried to show it in the open, is that there's a couple of mechanical things that he's doing that are kind of blatantly wrong. So if you don't shore those up, those kind of mistakes will reappear over and over, especially when you have a tight play with a lot of pressure on it. Dylan G getting the last fist bumps from his bullpen mates. Never did that in my day, Gary.
Well, the Mets were assembled before the game today and told the news about Henry Mejia and his 80-game suspension. As they take the field for the game tonight, what kind of psychological impact do you figure that has on them going out there for this game? You
know, that's a good question. I think that Irvin Santana, who was caught right before the season, was supposed to be the #2 pitcher for the Twins. I think that affected the Twins. That was like a hit in the gut. But we're talking about Mejia. It had already been put on the DL. You didn't know when he was going to come back. You've got lots of bodies and arms out there. disappointment with Mejia, to me, if I was his teammate, selfishness. And second, he was going to get some big outs down the line, and that's why you would feel bad about it.
Well, the Mets have Vic Black and Bobby Parnell on the horizon, but their bullpens looked awfully good without Mejia so far. Sean Gilmartin made his major league debut last night, pitched well. Eric Goodell made his first appearance of the season, looked good, and Terry Collins certainly has to hope that those performances can continue and that they can stem the tide until Black and Parnell are ready to go. And Mejia is pretty much out of sight, out of mind now. You don't anticipate him until the second half of the season, if then.
Dylan G's got an entourage now. All the starting pitchers, the ones that aren't pitching in the game, they will watch the bullpen now. They did it with Harvey, and they're doing it with all the starters. St. Louis Cardinals do this. Well, Julio Teheran has made that trip that a lot of young pitchers have made, and players from Latin America. Cartagena, Colombia, signed when he was 16 years old, brought along slowly, but now 30 wins and not quite 25 years old. And look at the defense from the Braves, brought to you by the all-new Kia Sorento. You see in the outfield a lot of different faces. Kelly Johnson, the ex-Brave in left field. Eric Young Jr., the ex-Met, and center field. And Nick Markakis, the ex-O in right field. Alberto Callaspo, Andrelton Simmons, who made an unbelievable play last night. Jace Peterson and Freddie Freeman on the right side. And the youngster, talented Christian Bethancourt behind the plate.
It's a lot of X's.
Right? Could kept going.
Some of our X's live in Georgia. Curtis Granderson will lead things off for the Mets against Teheran, who's made 7 career starts against the Mets and pitched to a 3.25 ERA against New York. Granderson continues to struggle to get hits, but continues to get on base with walks. He's just 1 for 13, but he's drawn 5 walks in the first 4 games. So he's got a respectable .333 on base percentage out of that leadoff spot. 24-year-old Julio Teheran set to go. Callaspo, the third baseman, out on the grass against Granderson. And Teheran's first pitch of the night is outside for ball 1, and we're underway. Granderson, Wright, and Duda for the Mets in the opening inning. Mets fell behind 3-0 last night, tied it on a couple of home runs, and lost it late. And Teheran gets the fastball in for a strike, 1-1. 76 degrees at game time in Atlanta.
Sorry, Gary. Teheran's got a couple of different fastballs, 4-seamer, 2-seamer, good breaking ball, and great changeup.
Drive to left center. Eric Young gets over in the gap and runs it down for the first out. So 1 out and nobody on. And David Wright coming up. David hit his first home run of the year last night. His first home run after 203 regular season at bats without one. It turned into a 3-hit night for David, but nobody was asking him about the 3 hits or the home run after the game. They all wanted to know about the play where he tried to tag Jace Peterson in the 8th inning rather than getting an easy out at first base. A play that led to the runs that put the Braves over the top. And David lines one right at Eric Young. 2 chances, 3 wide, 2 outs in the top of the first.
You know, what I was bothered by was, David's comments, I thought, would have been better served if he would have just came out and said, hey, I shouldn't have made this play. That play, he was coming in on the baseball. Just make it at first base. You don't need to try to get a speedy runner at third. And the other thing he could have done by taking onus and taking all that responsibility on himself would have been, he could have kind of not hid what Flores did, but he could have said, hey, Flores had a tough game, but we were tied. I'm the one who made the mistake that cost us the game.
Here's Lucas Duda, who made the last out last night coming off the bench. He drives one to left field, and that's over in the gap for a base hit. Kelly Johnson can't cut it off, and Duda heads to second base with a 2-out double. So Duda, first pitch swinging, taking one the other way, and he's got his first double of the year.
Well, the last 2 Mets hitters, David Wright, first pitch swinging, so Lucas Duda. Little fastball away, and you love to see Lucas using that left center field gap as he splits Kelly Johnson and Eric Young Jr. for that double.
The Braves have a Gold Glove in right field in Nick Markakis, but the other 2 outfielders they have on the field tonight are not really accomplished players at their position. Here's Michael Kadire, and he takes a slider for a strike. Kadire 1 for 4 last night, 4 for 17 to start the year. Trying to pick up Duda from second with 2 out.
I was surprised when I saw the stats today, and I know it's only 4 games, folks, but that the most strikeouts in the offense belong to Kadire, because I always think of him as a extreme contact hitter. So it tells you that he's not seeing it great right now as Murph awaits on deck.
7 strikeouts and no walks for Kadire. Teheran ahead 0-2, and he comes upstairs. In fact, the Mets as a team through the first 4 games had drawn 9 walks. Granderson had 5, the rest of the team only 4. Part of that speaks to the quality of the pitching they faced earlier in the year. And the slider from Teheran strikes out Kadire to end the inning. So a double for Duda, and he gets stranded. Dylan G takes the mound for the Mets when we come back to Atlanta. Above and beyond, a little different look for Freddie Gonzalez's team tonight. Eric Young gets a start in center field. Kelly Johnson in left. Alberto Caspi at third. All were out of the lineup last night, along with Jace Peterson, who wound up scoring the winning run for Atlanta as a pinch runner.
Well, you can see Dylan G last year, before he hurt his lat, part of his back also, his record was 3-1 with a 2.73 ERA. After that, 4-7 with almost a 5 ERA. So really a tale of 2 seasons for Dylan.
And he'll face his former teammate Eric Young Jr. to lead off. EY making his 3rd start of the year, and the corners pinch in against the speedy Young. And he takes low and in for ball 1. Eric 2 for 11 to start the season. Spent the last 2 years as a Met. Hit .229 for the Mets last year. 30 stolen bases after leading the league in steals the year before. And he takes a strike from G. 1-1.
Dylan's got 46 consecutive starts, going at least 5 innings or more.
He's approaching a Mets record. The Mets record is 50 straight starts with 5 innings or more, held by Doc Gooden. But it's a remarkable achievement in terms of consistency, not getting knocked out of games early, not putting pressure on your team's bullpen. Jace Peterson on deck. And Eric grounds one down to first, handled easily by Duda for the first out. So Young is retired.
Well, both defenses are going to be brought to you tonight by the all-new Kia Sorento. And the Mets back to their defense that they had in Washington. Mostly the lineup they had in Washington. Maybe we're not going to do the defense. We'll do it later. Here we go. Okay, quickly in the outfield. Kadire, Lagares, and Granderson. They started all the games in Washington. Wright, Flores, Murphy, Duda. Same there with Darno behind the plate.
Here is Jace Peterson taking a curveball in the dirt. Peterson acquired in one of the deals that the Braves made with the Padres in the offseason. And he had a very impressive spring training. And getting his 4th start at second base. Phil Goslin started there last night. Peterson 2 for 10 to start the year.
Goslin with that big hit, right? Off Montero.
Chopped to Flores, his first chance of the night. And he handles it smoothly for the second out.
I mean, that was an easy play, but did you see how his arm angle, he was on top of that baseball, so it flew true. Just a little tweaking of the mechanics for Flores. It's an easy play, so really anyone can make this play. But watch his arm angle. Instead of from the side, he gets on top of it. Very nice. You'll be fine, folks. Don't panic out there.
2 out and nobody on. Don't you know that's the default? It's a called strike to Markakis. Nick Markakis 0 for 5 last night. He's gotten off to a rough start. Just 3 for 16 in his first week in the National League. After 9 years in Baltimore, hits the curveball out to left and right at Kadire, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Dylan G on just 9 pitches. After 1, Mets and Braves, no score. Murphy will lead off the second for New York. If you're just joining us, the Mets were stung by the announcement today that Henry Mejia has been suspended for 80 games after failing a test for a banned steroid. And the specific steroid, stanozolol, has now tripped up 4 different players over the last few days, including Irvin Santana with the Twins. And you have to wonder what that's all about, because that's an old school steroid that you figured guys had stopped using.
Well, it's an old school steroid that for some reason the tests that they had were not finding it, but now they've had maybe a new protocol of tests that are finding that, and it's a problem for some guys.
Could be that some guys might be using masking agents that now they're able to break through, something like that.
Yeah, they're taking the sheet off.
Well, that could mean that there are going to be more positive tests to come. We'll see. Daniel Murphy leads off in the second inning, and the curveball taken inside for ball 1. Murphy 0 for 3 last night. He's had good numbers against Julio Teheran. Murph tends to hit the good pitchers well. He's 5 for 13 in his career against Teheran. In fact, if you look back to last year and you take the 10 pitchers in the league with the best batting average against, Murph is up among the leaders in the batting average against those guys. Bounce down to first, and Freddie Freeman handles it. Teheran to cover. 1 out. Well, there's the Braves rotation. Mike Minor's on the disabled list with a shoulder injury. He's just starting to throw off some mound.
That's right. Trevor Cahill threw before the game today. And like a simulated kind of game. He came over from the Diamondbacks. He'll be in that rotation. But I think the top 3 there, Teheran, Wood, Shelby Miller, all young, all talented.
Right now, Eric Stoltz is filling in the rotation. We saw him last night. Cahill will make his first start on Tuesday against Miami. They're skipping him this first time through, and that's why Teheran's going tonight. While Lagares shoots one foul. Lagares 1 for 4 last night, 3 for 16 to start the year. Travis d'Arnaud waiting on deck, swinging the hottest bat in the Mets lineup in the early season. Teheran coming right after the hitters, and the Mets have been very aggressive early in the count.
They're aggressive. Teheran has been aggressive, and he pitches very quickly. Something you like from a young pitcher.
Chopper for Jace Peterson, and he throws out Lagares, and quickly there are 2 out. Now the Braves are always up among the league leaders in staff ERA, and that's with a lot of turnover over the last few seasons. The one constant, the pitching coach Roger McDowell.
You know, he's been able to bridge that gap. A pitching coach that can work with young talented arms, a pitching coach that can work with veteran arms, and what he did or already has done for Jim Johnson in just the time we saw him last night, a guy who struggled last year. He looked electric last night.
You know, he's got a very interesting mix in that bullpen with completely untested youngsters and really grizzled veterans. You got 38-year-old Jason Grilli, who's also coming off a down year last year, and then the youngsters like Cody Martin and Brandon Caniff, who we saw last night, who looked very good as well. d'Arnaud has hit in all 4 games for the Mets so far, 6 for 15, so he's hitting an even .400.
From playing with Roger all those years, the things I took away from it, he's always been a guy that can communicate in few words, so he's not going to be overcoaching you, and I think that's a strength for a pitching coach.
2-1 to d'Arnaud. Wilmer Flores would be next. Mets have had 1 base runner against Teheran. Duda's 2-out double in the first. The slider off the plate, 3-1.
I just don't know those pitching coaches that are kind of in your grill all game long for 2 hours. I mean, it's difficult. You don't want that. Once you're competing, that's what you should be doing. Do all your work on the side. Once the game starts, compete.
Just seems as though that has changed so much.
Yeah, I would not be a favorite with pitching coaches today. I'd be like, I got you. I know what you're saying, but please, let's talk about this over a cold one after the game. Danny Worthen's got a lot of pitchers to work with here this season. The 8 guys in the bullpen, the youngsters he has in his rotation, the veteran guys, Cologne and Nice.
Well, Danny Worthen now in his 7th full season as Mets pitching coach, and he has enjoyed a consistent level of success. 3-2 coming, and d'Arnaud hits one in the air to left field, pretty deep, but Johnson has it lined up, and that retires the side. Teheran sets the Mets down 1-2-3 in the second. No score in Atlanta. Off the home second against Dylan G. Freeman has had a nasty habit of crushing Dylan's world over the last couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of seasons ago, Dylan had probably one of his best games in the big leagues, taking a shutout into the ninth, but this two-run home run walked him off.
And then a couple of months later at Citi Field, he had a no-hitter going into the seventh inning, and Freeman busted that one up as well. And the Mets putting on a little more of a shift against Freeman than they did last night.
Well, the shift is on in the infield. If he pulls it on the ground, if he hits it on the ground, it'll be more aptly pulled. But in the air, you got to play him straight up, which the Mets are doing.
Freeman was 1 for 4 last night. Now, you shift him differently, I guess, against a right-hander than you did last night against the lefty.
Yes. We were tracking last night his at-bats against Jonathan Neese. But it was difficult because Jonathan wasn't hitting his spots, so Darno was calling for it outside. The pitches were inside. But against the right-hander G, you really get a test on how you're going to try to get Freeman out.
Gets one in the air to right field. Granderson back onto the warning track, back at the wall, leaping, and it's out of here. Freddie Freeman with his first home run of the year. And he rocks Dylan G's world again. 1-0 Atlanta.
That was almost so similar to the pitch we showed you that he hit with a walk-off home run. When you look at the pitch sequence, the problem is after getting that first strike in, Dylan got behind. Tried to throw a couple of change-ups down, neither of them in the strike zone. So he tries to come back with a little cutter on the inside part, and that's the one he hit for the home run.
Kelly Johnson hits one right back through the originator, and he's got a base hit. So back-to-back hits for the Braves to start the second inning.
Here's the 2-1 pitch. See that little cutter in the middle of the plate? It's almost similar to the pitch he threw a couple seasons ago on that walk-off home run. Good try by Curtis, but just couldn't get high enough. Terry Collins calls Freeman one of the best hitters in the National League. I'll agree. He's one of the best all-around players also.
So now with a runner at first and nobody out, here's Alberto Callaspo playing third base tonight. Switch hitter batting left. Callaspo got in late last night and drew a walk as a pinch hitter. For his career, a better right-hand hitter than left, but not by a whole lot. Now with his fifth different team, he was in the National League with Arizona to start his career.
I thought you were talking about his nighttime activities. He said he got in late last night. I didn't know you had a spy on him.
He was able to participate.
There you go.
Callaspo now 31 years old. A very useful player. You can use him a lot of different places. That's one thing about this Braves team. They've got a lot of versatility. We've seen that already in a game plus. They've been able to move some people around, use everybody on the roster in the lineup in just 2 games. Everybody except catcher A.J. Przinsky will probably play tomorrow. G behind 2-0 on Callaspo with the catcher Bethancourt on deck. And he gets the fastball in at the knees, 2-1. The Braves stumbled to a 79-win season last year after a level of consistency. Won 96 the year before under Freddie Gonzalez, is now in his 5th year. Tap to third. 2 if they hurry. Murphy with the turn, and they get Callaspo for the double play. David Wright took his time and knew exactly how much time he had for the 5-4-3, 2 out and nobody on.
But Murph wasn't sure how much time he had. So David, like you said, took his time, made an accurate throw. But watch Murph. That's as quick a turn as you've seen Murph in quite some time. Big double play.
That is the first double play that the Mets have turned in their first 5 games of the season. 2 out and nobody on. Here's Christian Bethancourt, 1 for 4 last night. And he takes a little bit high.
Dylan shaking his head. His secondary pitches, slider, cutter, curveball, and change. He's not been able to find the release point yet. Fastball's fine.
It has been quite a roiling 6 months for Dylan to find himself back on the mound in a starting role. in April. There were so many rumors he was going to be traded in the offseason. Never happened. Then he was shuttled to the bullpen to start spring training. Then the injury to Zach Wheeler put him back in the rotation tentatively, but he had to hold off Rafael Montero down the stretch of spring to secure that spot. He gets Bethancourt on the fly ball to right. That'll end the inning, but Freddie Freeman putting the Braves on top. Taking Dylan G deep again. Freeman's first of the year. 1-0 Atlanta after 2. The Braves on top.
One of the great things in baseball is that you think there's a certain way you can hit, but some guys are just a natural. Look at his bat angle. I mean, it's almost like he's ladling it up from the plate, and his head is right on, running right down his arm, right down his bat. You know, that's why I think baseball is so unusual, because most guys try to conform to the norm, but there's just some guys that are just natural that you just have to let them go, and Freeman's one of those guys.
Well, that's been the way ever since the game started. Wilmer Flores leads off and takes outside from Julio Teheran. There have always been different batting styles, but over the last couple of decades there's been more of a tendency to create more of a cookie cutter approach to hitting, for better or for worse. These days, for worse.
I think it's the same in a lot of sports. It's like that in tennis and in golf, more in golf.
Saying nobody hits like Lee Trevino anymore?
No, and it's like Lee Trevino. No.
Flores 0 for 3 last night, just 2 for 14 to start the season. He has a home run in his career against Teheran in 4 career at bats. And Teheran comes inside and falls behind for a rare time, 3-1. Teheran doesn't walk many. Last year, 2.1 walks per 9 innings. Also doesn't strike out that many, 7.6 strikeouts. Tends to keep his pitch count down. And that enabled him to pitch 221 innings last year. It's amazing how those things go hand in hand.
Yes, they do, especially in today's game. You know, all you need is that extra inning or two every start. Just challenge Flores right down the middle and blew it by him.
3-2 to Wilmer leading off with Dylan G on deck. And Flores fouls back the fastball. Leo Teheran signed out of the nation of Colombia as a 16-year-old, signed for $850,000. The Yankees offered more, but he signed with the Braves because the scout was his cousin.
That's right.
Miguel. Gave the Braves somewhat of an upper hand.
Nepotism at its best.
And it's up and in, ball 4. Flores on with a leadoff walk. So the Mets get a leadoff base runner. Let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Guys, obviously things get a little magnified when Wilmer Flores struggles in the field, but I figured I'd check in with a couple of guys in the front office, see what they were thinking about Flores after the last 2 games with the 3 errors. I was told by multiple people that they view Wilmer Flores as the starting shortstop for this team. One of them told me he's going to get a very long leash here. They look at him the same way they look at anybody else on the roster. They've won the job. They like what he did in spring training, and they're comfortable with him moving forward. They also said that they were comfortable with the fact that his errors came on throwing errors, which is not one of the things that he's been criticized for. They like his arm, and right now he's catching the ball, which is what they wanted to see him do in the first place.
Well, last night it was clear that his footwork was an issue, but it's something that, it's something that you have an infield coach for, to try and work with him on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think he's just going to have to button up his game out there on defense and just pay, can't have any loose moments.
Meanwhile, Dylan G with the sacrifice, something that he really struggled with last year. Gets the tying run to second with 1 out, and Granderson takes a strike.
What do I mean by loose moments? I'm thinking that younger players tend to take their offense out on their defense, so they're thinking about their offense while they're out there playing. He's playing a premier position. He cannot do that. He's got to be pedal to the metal when he's out there on defense. Every pitch.
Granderson rips one to right at Peterson, and then they double up Flores to end the inning. A bullet off the bat of Granderson turns into a 4-6 double play as Flores gets doubled off. 1-0 Atlanta in the third. Your local Tri-Honda dealer for great deals on the 2015 models. Home third inning, Andrelton Simmons leads off against Dylan G. Simmons 1 for 4 last night. Hammers one on the ground to David Wright. 1 pitch and 1 out for G in the third.
Did you stay up last night for the Red Sox-Yankee game?
I tried. I really tried. I got to the game in time to see Ortiz hit the home run at the top of the 16th, and Teixeira hit it right-handed against the right-handed knuckleballer to tie it in the bottom of the 16th. I made it to the middle of the 17th, and then I fell asleep.
Well, I got to the point where I said, you know what, I'm going to have to stay up as long as this goes. And it was quite a game. And listening to Bob Costas, of course, one of the best of all time, he was getting a little weary of the Red Sox would go up and the Yankees would come back. The Red Sox would go up and the Yankees would come back.
Well, let me put it this way. Bob, had a very long game to do, 6 hours and 49 minutes. But how about our friend John Sterling, who does play-by-play of every inning for the Yankees until 2:13 in the morning, come back and do the 105 game today. He's my hero.
Yeah, right.
Dylan G throws out Teheran, and that's the second out.
Lots of tea and honey at some point, right?
Wow.
I know they also had, I think they had a 16-minute electrical fuse go off, right? The lights went out.
Right. A couple of banks of lights went out.
Looked cold. Had it all.
It was a classic. I mean, how many games get untied in the 16th and the 18th and get retied? It's almost like July 4th, '85.
That's right.
The only thing that was missing was Rick Camp.
Didn't they have a game like that? The Mets went 20 innings in St. Louis. Was a game like that also where they
got tied up a couple of times. Yeah. Eric Young bounces one for Murphy, and an easy inning for Dylan G. 3 ground ball outs. We're through 3 in Atlanta. 1-0 Braves. Nice little breeze blowing. Just a perfect night for baseball. Mets upcoming schedule brought to you by your local Tri-Honda dealer. One more here in Atlanta tomorrow afternoon. That game will be on SNY. Then the home opener on Monday afternoon. Be sure to use public transportation because a big crowd is expected.
The time I get there, it doesn't matter.
But you 3 with the Phillies, 4 with the Marlins, and 3 with the Braves. A 10-game homestand to begin the Citi Field season on Monday afternoon. And then they stay in New York for 3 with the Yankees in the Bronx before they take their next jaunt out of town.
Let me test my theory here. A hitter makes an out on the first pitch, never swings at the first pitch in his next step back.
We'll see if it works for David Wright, who lined out to center on the first pitch his first time up against Julio Teheran. Well, he wasn't going to swing at that anyway.
The reason I have that theory, folks, is that no hitter wants to make 2 outs on 2 pitches. That's why.
Wright, Duda, and Kadire trying to get the Mets started here in the 4th. And David takes another breaking ball outside. 2-0. Teheran walked the leadoff hitter in the 3rd inning, but got out of it on a line drive double play. Mets have hit some balls hard, but they have just 1 hit over the first 3 innings. David swinging at that little cutter. 2-1.
Good pitch by Teheran. And you're right, Gary. Cut it just a little bit to keep it on that outside corner.
Been a lot of conversation about how the Braves have broken down their team with the trades of Hayward and the Uptons and Gaddis and Kimbrel. But this is a guy who they are planning to build around. Teheran in the 2nd year of a 6-year contract.
Well, they were
by right 3-2.
You know, they had that huge contract of Melvin Upton Jr. saddled around them that they've gotten rid of. But they're building around Teheran. Simmons, and Freeman, who all have long-term deals as young players.
You would have figured Kimbrel was also going to be in that conversation, but not any longer. And Teheran just blows away David Wright. Still behind 3-1 and threw a couple of fastballs by him for his second strikeout.
Unusual to see David get in hitters' counts and get the fastball, and it's not that he wouldn't put it in play, but he didn't touch it.
So 1 out and nobody on. And now Duda, who drove one to the gap in left center for a double. The Mets only hit so far. That was in the first inning. Lucas now 6 for 18 with a couple of home runs against Teheran. And he takes a curveball inside. First curve we've seen from Teheran.
Shift is funny for the Braves here. Alberto Callaspo is playing third, is out in the softball roving position. So he moves all the way from third out there to the outfield.
So you could get a fly ball to medium right field that goes to 5 in your scorecard. Up the middle, backhanded by Peterson, and he throws out Duda. So Teheran shatters Duda's bat and gets a ground out 2 away.
So that's 4-3, right? We're going to keep that straight.
It is a 4-3. And now Callaspo goes the 150 feet or so back to third base.
You can see Lucas trying to get those hands inside. No, it's just off the end of the bat. He was a little too quick on the fastball from Teheran.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Michael Kadire, who was struck out his first time up. And another little cutter from Teheran. We've seen that wrinkle from him before.
You know, he is really adept, as Murph waits on deck, putting a little finger pressure to move it outside, two-seamer to push it inside.
There's the slider that he struck Kadire out with the first time, and he gets ahead 0-2.
Well, this is the one that David didn't bite on, but Kadire does here.
Teheran has struck out 2 and walked 1. Kadire able to make contact with that fastball. So Teheran, you know, in an era where you get guys who are throwing 95, 97 miles an hour, aces of staffs, Teheran's not that guy.
No, he's a pitcher's pitcher. He moves the ball in and out, changes speeds, works quickly.
Top out at 91, 92 miles an hour. And the curveball pulled foul.
It's the first one he's hung in the inside part of the plate to a right-handed hitter. 6'2", 200. Looks taller than that from up here.
30 big league wins, which is the most among any current pitcher who has not yet reached 25 years old.
He won't be 25 till January next season also.
So he's got a chance to build on that total. Breaking ball gets Kadire again. Third strikeout for Teheran. Second time he's gotten Kadire. So the Mets having trouble with the Braves ace so far tonight. We go to the bottom of the 4th in Atlanta. Braves on the strength of Freeman's home run, still up 1-0. It's the best way to start your weekday. Join Suki, Corey, and the gang from 5 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Jace Peterson leads off the home fourth inning against Dylan G. G has kept his pitch count very low, just 29 through 3 innings. But the one mistake to Freddie Freeman has him behind in this game. Ball and a strike to Peterson, who grounded out to short his first time up. Jace Peterson, who executed that evasive maneuver to get around David Wright in the 8th inning last night. Wouldn't be surprising that he has a few football moves. He was a noted defensive back at McNeese State. Very highly regarded as a football player as well as a baseball player.
But you're not supposed to have the moves to avoid people. You're supposed to have the moves to knock people over.
He was pretending to shadow a receiver on the outside corner. Got him looking at a changeup. And that's the first strikeout of the night for Dylan G.
Nice. Dylan's come out in his 4th inning and has had little better breaking pitches, and the changeup catches that outside corner. Very nice.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Nick Markakis, who lined out to left field his first time up. And the Mets don't shift quite as far on the infield this time as they did Markakis' first at bat. First pitch changeup for a strike. Now, is that an adjustment based on him going left field his first time up?
I don't think they would change just on one at bat. I mean, they've got a whole career of Markakis to kind of figure out. So maybe someone's dropped the ball out there. That could happen too.
He floats one to the right side of the infield. Murphy cutting in front of Flores, can't make the play, and Markakis is safe.
Well, there's where the shift, to me, you just end up with a lot of people in the same area and just can be confusing. This is a play that pretty simple, you would think, for Flores, because he's coming that way. Murphy's moving away from first. Flores is coming towards first. Flores should make that play.
And what you're saying is it's a case of Murphy not quite sure where Flores is?
Well, yeah, and also I think that a shift is not proper if two guys end up in the same position on the ball. It's just not good.
They've scored that infield hit for Markakis, who does not run well at all. And honestly, if Murph lets that ball go by, Flores probably throws him out easily. There's a good changeup by G, who's had a much better one here in the 4th inning, getting even on Freeman, who took him deep his first time up. Freeman's first home run of the year. He had 18 last year in what was a sort of a down year for him.
Well, I think what happened last year, Gary, is what's going to happen sometimes this year, is that a lot of teams are going to be reluctant to pitch to Freddie, and he took a lot more walks last year. His on-base percentage was almost 400.
But his slugging percentage was down significantly, so hit sharply. Flores with a nice backhand stop. Out at second. Murph with the turn. Not in time because I think Flores forgot how many out there were. Flores' first thought was to go to first base, and he had to adjust and get it to Murphy for the force. If he had done that quicker, they probably would have turned two.
Where there's two things that work here. Either he forgot how many outs there were, or because of the slight shift, he didn't think Murph was going to get to second base. So one of those is true. I don't know. To ask after the game, but I would think the first one, that he just forgot how many outs there were.
It certainly seemed as though his first inclination was just to throw the ball to first base, thinking there were two out, or forgetting there was a runner at first. One of those two.
So maybe three scenarios now.
Yes. In any event, it's a double play that should have been turned and was not, so it leaves the inning alive for Kelly Johnson with Freeman at first and 2 out. Johnson rifled a base hit past G into center field his first time, and he pulls that one foul.
So it's just to his backhand. It was hit pretty sharp. Murph with the hustle to get over there. When it's hit that sharply, you can take your time. Let Murph get to second base, which he does then, but he could have rifled it there and completed the double play.
Johnson late on that fastball from G. Hardest pitch Dylan's thrown tonight at 91.
You know, Gary, the collateral damage of this is that should have been out to Murph. That should have been out. You don't have these extra pitches that are being put on your counter.
Well, again, you know, we talked about it earlier. Mets have played 4 games this year, 3 of the 4 have been decided by defense. And, no errors have been charged in this inning, but not every poor defensive play is denoted by an error.
No errors, but they've erred.
Swing and a miss, and G compensates by striking out Kelly Johnson. Good inning for G, his second strikeout. Still 1-0 Braves after 4. Just topped out at 91 with a couple of strikeouts that last inning. Julio Teheran at 93. And physical errors are one thing. Mental errors, though, gets the coach a little angry.
Well, it does, and this is one of those one-way conversations. What I mean by that, the coach talks, you listen. It's a little heated, and you're right. I mean, it's physical errors are going to happen. They happen all the time. But not being prepared for the play is something you just can't allow.
I mean, that's that old thing about the mental checklist you go through before each pitch.
If the ball's hit to my backhand, what do I do? If I have to come in on the ball, do I go to first or second? It's the better infielder you are or player, outfielders have to do it too. They can run through those litany of choices very, very quickly. For guys that are starting or rookie players, it takes a little more time.
And it starts with how many out and where are the base runners.
And are they fast?
Right.
Are they slow? It's the same kind of deal that you use when you're on the bases running. You want to go through all that stuff too. Where are the infielders? Where are the outfielders? If it splits the gap, who has a good arm? Whatever, all that stuff.
Murphy grounded out his first time up and shoots the curveball foul. 1-2.
Ooh, good catch by a Mets fan there in a striped jersey.
Got the camo.
Or camo, sorry, camo.
Even getting the fist bumps from the Braves fans. That's very ecumenical.
Very new world now. I don't get it. The Braves fan is hoping that he gives the ball to his kid. That's why.
Saying there's some lobbying effort going on there.
Absolutely. Told you to bring your glove. You never know.
2-2 to Murph with Lagares on deck. And the breaking ball got him. Fourth strikeout for Teheran, including 3 of the last 4 hitters.
Well, when you're a good pitcher, you get ahead of hitters, then you expand the strike zone. You throw strikes early in the count so you don't have to later. And that's exactly what Teheran does.
So 1 out and nobody on. Teheran still only giving up 1 hit. Now Juan Lagares, who grounded out to second his first trip. And he takes breaking ball for a strike. Lagares now 3 for 17 to start the year. The Mets as a team began the night with a .215 team batting average through the first 4 games. They had the one good offensive game in Washington, the last game there when Harvey pitched. Freddie Freeman waiting for the pop-up. And quickly there are 2 out. 7 in a row retired by Teheran.
We didn't say it last night because the game started 2 hours later but this is the time of night that it becomes difficult for infielders and outfielders. They sometimes can lose that ball in the sky.
Here's d'Arnaud, flying out to left his first time up. Well, the Braves have gotten off to a terrific start. They're 4-0 for the first time since 1994.
Heyday.
That's a little surprising considering all the success they've had since then, from then to now. And they've had a habit of being really good early in the season. It's the late seasons that have sometimes troubled them. Certainly was the case last year. They were in contention going into the final month, but went 7-18 in September. 2 to d'Arnaud.
He's got the Mets in between Teheran. He's throwing the breaking ball when they're looking for a fastball, and d'Arnaud went up there looking for a breaking ball. He threw 2 fastballs right there.
d'Arnaud gets it in the air to left field, pretty deep. Back goes Johnson onto the warning track and has enough room to reel it in to retire the side. 8 in a row retired by Julio Teheran. Line score brought to you by your Tri-State BMW centers. Freddie Freeman's second inning home run accounting for all the scoring in this one as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. Dylan G's thrown just 45 pitches through the first 4 innings. Alberto Callaspo leads off and takes a strike.
It's been interesting to watch both these pitchers. You know, not guys who throw 100 miles an hour. They got to use all 4 pitches, change speeds. There's a lot of different ways to get outs in the major leagues.
G got Callaspo to grind into a double play his first time up. 6, 7, and 8 in the Atlanta batting order. Bethancourt on deck, and then Simmons. Braves have had 3 hits. One of those a questionable infield hit in the last inning, and G able to work around some infield difficulties. Nice looking changeup, and Callaspo did well to get a piece of it. Now the 1-2. Callaspo fouls off the fastball. That's be playing the Phillies come Monday when they get home. They will miss Cole Hamels in that series. Hamels is pitching tonight against the Nationals. Wilson Ramos just took him deep, and the Nats lead 1-0 in the fourth.
Hamels gave up 4 home runs to the Red Sox in his opening day start.
Yes, he did. And Callaspo doing a nice job of staying alive.
Callaspo had a couple of good seasons in Oakland where he was part of that platoon system that Bob Melvin would use.
And he's always been a very tough hitter to strike out. That's part of his MO. Here he's already seen 7 pitches. And he lifts this one along the right field line. Trouble if it stays fair, and it does. Callaspo on his way to second, and he stands there with a little pop fly double.
Oh, that's unfortunate for the Mets and Dylan G. A good pitch, hit off the end of the bat. Somehow Callaspo kept it fair, but fooled by the pitch, kind of just lays the bat on it. And because the Mets were shifted over, not that they were going to make this catch anyway, if you hit it against the defense and you're a little guy like that, it's always going to drop in.
So a leadoff double for Callaspo, the 4th hit against G. And now Christian Bethancourt, who flied out to right his first time up. And he shoots one foul.
Trying to hit the ball to the right side, Bethancourt. Remember last night's game, he was asked to bunt at one time and couldn't get the bunt down and then struck out.
Number 8 hitter Andrelton Simmons waiting on deck. G jams him, and he shoots it by Duda and down the line, and that'll bring in a run. Callaspo into score, heading for second. Bethancourt. Granderson's throw is not in time. Back-to-back doubles for Callaspo and Bethancourt, and the Braves now lead 2-0.
Well, sometimes good things can happen when you're an unselfish offensive player. Bethancourt on both swings, just trying to hit the ball to the right side. That inside-out swing produces this ball that gets just out of the reach of Lucas Duda. He thought he was going to stop at first. He did a little bit and then turned it on.
So back-to-back doubles from the 6 and 7 hitters, and now Andrelton Simmons takes a strike.
Curtis got to it in time. Accurate throw wouldn't have got him.
Yeah, the indecision by Bethancourt coming around first base was a little puzzling. Maybe he just remembered they're supposed to run on Granderson's arm. At the knees for a strike, and G ahead on Simmons 0-2. So a pop fly off the end of the bat and a little inside-out double. So G's made good pitches this inning and had bad results. And now he finds himself behind 2-0. And Simmons shoots one past Duda and down the line. That'll bring in Bethancourt. Simmons digging for second for the 3rd straight Atlanta double. And the Braves have a 3-0 lead.
Well, Gary, you and I were remarking in last night's game that Andrelton Simmons, who last year got home run swing happy, has now decided to hit the ball to the right side. 3 times in last night's game, and here, maybe a little excuse me swing on the 0-2 count, but still gets that ball past Duda.
I was talking to Terry Collins before the game today about Simmons and what clearly is a change in approach, and he said he's going to be a great player. And he has, I mean, last year he was selling out, trying to yank everything out of the ballpark. He is a completely changed hitter.
He was on a team where everyone was trying to hit home runs.
Here's Teheran. The Mets look for the bunt. I mean, when you have a guy like Simmons who's already arguably the best defensive player in the game, it's much like with Lagares. If he can add that enhanced offensive component, he could become one of the best players in baseball.
Well, he's an intelligent player, so you would think that he would figure it out offensively at some point. Maybe he's already has.
And Teheran pulls it back and takes a strike. 0-2.
Teheran's not much of a hitter. Even with 2 strikes, I'd keep the bunt on. And if I'm Dylan G, I counter with a pitch out of the strike zone up or a breaking ball away in the dirt. Try to get him to reach for it.
Eric Young waiting on deck.
The ball up, because if you throw it up, we're more apt to pop that ball up.
Teheran gets the bunt down on the 3rd strike. So a successful sacrifice for Teheran, 3-4, moving Simmons over to 3rd. That's the first out.
See how he starts with that bat across his letters? Why does he do that? Because if you're a pitcher bunting, you know that anything above where you put your bat, you let it go. But that ball was below. A nice job by Teheran.
So now the Mets have to bring the infield in, already down 3-0 in the 5th. And Eric Young, an astute bunter at the plate, so the squeeze play is not out of the realm of possibility. Young has been up twice, grounded out both times. Simmons at 3rd with 1 out.
What you have to do if you're Dylan G and d'Arnaud, if you see the runner or you sense he's coming, just throw the ball with the left-hander, throw it 3 feet outside. Make d'Arnaud go and get it.
And Eric Young takes a strike.
David Wright trying to stay close enough maybe to hear if there's a signal from Bo Porter to the runner.
Young hits it hard down the line, and that's a fair ball. Simmons in to score. Young on his way to 2nd. He might try for 3. He's not going to hesitate. The relay throw by Murphy, not even close. Eric Young with a triple, and it's 4-0 Atlanta. Well, the Braves playing pepper with that right field line. 4 extra base hits, all down the right field line.
Boy, almost the same exact spot as Andrelton Simmons. And the great speed of Young, of course. By the time Granderson gets it in, no chance of him at 3rd. Murph could have stuck that in his pocket. And we enjoyed this when he was a Met. Watching Eric Young run. Boy, you could almost appeal first base. He kind of tiptoed over that, but then turned it on between 2nd and 3rd.
That is the 50th triple of Eric Young's career. He had 5 last year with the Mets. So Dylan G, who was pecked by a couple of fortunate extra base hits, has now given up a couple of hard ones to Simmons and Young, and finds himself in a 4-run hole. And again, the Mets are going to have to bring the infield in. There's still only 1 out, and Jace Peterson at the plate. And again, there's the threat of the suicide squeeze. Peterson 0 for 2. He's grounded out and struck out. And he pounds the breaking ball into the ground. 0-1.
Less of a threat here with the 4-0 lead. You probably want to let your young hitter hit.
3 doubles and a triple, accounting for 3 Atlanta runs here in the 5th. And Peterson pulls 1 foul. 0-2.
Dylan G has been up in the count a couple of times now, and the pitches he's thrown to Teheran bunting, to Simmons was he was ahead in the count, and he had a strike on Young. Got to do a better job of getting the ball out of the strike zone when he gets ahead.
Now Dylan G right now just trying to survive this 5th inning. Alex Torres up in the bullpen. Remember, G has that streak of 46 straight starts where he's pitched at least 5 innings, which is the longest active streak in the major leagues, and just 4 shy of a Mets club record.
Well, really in jeopardy here, though, with Markakis and Freeman coming up next.
Big out to get here against Peterson. He's ahead 1-2. Peterson able to reach across the plate and stay alive.
This is like watching a total different team from last year. I mean, when you were in trouble against the Braves last season, you could go to someone to get a strikeout or a punch out when you needed it. Not so much the case this year.
They were everywhere in that lineup with guys like the Uptons and Gaddis. Guys who can hit the ball to the ballpark, but struck out a lot. Murphy looks the runner back and gets the out at first, and they're 2 away. Well, Kevin Seitzer is the new hitting coach for the Braves, and he was a contact guy.
You know, I played with Seitz when I was in Oakland, and he is a guy who loves to talk hitting. He's an energetic guy. You know, he's had camps. He just lives and breathes hitting. 207 hits in his rookie year with the Kansas City Royals, so he got it done at the big league level too. Those are his charts.
It's a lot of circles.
This inning, yes.
Here's Nick Markakis with the runner at 3rd and 2 out. He drills one into right field, and that'll bring in another run. Eric Young is in to score. Nick Markakis drives in the 4th Atlanta run of the inning, and now the Braves have a 5-0 lead.
First pitch hitting Markakis, changeup. He started him up with a changeup in his last at bat. Markakis maybe sitting on it. Good hitting.
Well, Terry Collins is going to stay with Dylan G, who's given up 4 runs on 5 hits here in the 5th inning. He'll stay in to face his nemesis, Freddie Freeman, who homered back in the 2nd inning. You a little surprised by this?
Very surprised. A couple of reasons. One is that Freeman's already homered off him. You can't get it down any more than 5 runs. You got a left-hander warming up. I could go on.
And you got 7, 8 guys in the bullpen.
That's right.
That's a good fastball from G. And it's 0-2 to Freeman.
Able to paint that outside corner on the lefties.
Freeman, the 8th man to bat in the inning. G trying to put an end to it. Ball and 2 strikes.
Just his secondary pitches have just been short in this game all night long, even though he hadn't given up just but 1 run through the first 4.
28 pitches already here in the 5th inning for Dylan. And Freeman checks his swing and fouls it straight down. Again, the 1-2, and Freeman hits it sharply, but Flores equal to it and makes the accurate throw to put an end to the inning. But 8 Braves came to bat, and they score 4 runs on 5 hits. After 5-0 Atlanta. For Dylan G. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Time Warner Cable. Enjoy more shows on more screens. Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better. So the Mets find themselves in a 5-run hole as they come to bat in the 6th against Julio Teheran, who's allowed just 1 hit tonight. Wilmer Flores, the only other Met base runner, drew a walk leading off the 3rd, but was then doubled off second base on a line drive. And he takes a strike from Teheran. Flores, then John Mayberry out on deck to bat for Dylan G, followed by Granderson in the 6th. Teheran's retired 8 in a row since the walk to Flores, his only walk of the night. Teheran's been so good tonight, he hasn't had a chance to utilize one of the best parts of his game, his pickoff move.
One of the best block moves in the game.
I mean, think about that. He's so good, you can't unveil your best move.
He'd love to not be able to show it tonight, I'm sure. You know, last year, he really made great strides. He had a better record the year before, but he was a better pitcher last year. He mentioned he pitched over 220 innings. But he also went deep in the games. He had 4 complete games, 2 of them shutouts. So he's one of those young pitchers that knows how to bring it home now.
And just 24 years old. Breaking ball gets Flores, and that's 5 strikeouts for Teheran.
Well, he's got a nice motion, a little pause at the top, and then really accelerates that motion to the plate. A lot of action, and then pulls the string with that slider. And whoever taught him how to pitch taught him well, because his mechanics are very good.
The king of Cartagena.
Yeah.
1 out and nobody on. John Mayberry batting for Dylan G. Gets a breaking ball, hits it out to shallow center. Eric Young coming on to make the play, and there are 2 out. Got a nice break on that ball coming in. So Mayberry sees 1 pitch and flies out.
Well, we saw with the Mets, Eric Young is coming in on the baseball. No one any better.
It's the opposite direction that sometimes gives him trouble. Although I'd have to say he improved as an outfielder last year over the year before. 2 out and nobody on. Here's Curtis Granderson, a hard 0 for 2. He drilled one to left center that Young caught in the 1st, and then he hit a bullet into a double play in the 3rd. 10 in a row now retired by Teheran. And the curveball in for a strike. 1-1. It's almost hard to believe that 3 winters ago it was a conversation as to whether the Braves would deal Julio Teheran or Randall Delgado when they made the trade with the Diamondbacks that brought them Justin Upton.
Good organizations don't make that mistake. The problem was, as I was mentioning it earlier, he went 15-3 in AAA, and he didn't make the team, and he went back, and he kind of moped his way through another season and didn't pitch well. That's where he shrunk a little bit in their eyes.
Granderson on with a walk. 6th time he's walked in the first 5 games, and the 2nd one given up tonight by Teheran. But while he has blossomed, Delgado just has not really found his stride.
Yeah, off the radar now.
So 2 out now. David Wright, who's lined out to center and struck out 0 for 2. That slider over to right. 0-1. Well, the Braves are one of 2 unbeaten teams in the National League. The other one is the Colorado Rockies. Rockies are playing the Cubs tonight, down 1-0 in the 1st. In the American League, the Tigers just went to 5-0, got 4 in the 9th, and beat Cleveland 9-6. 1-2 to right.
You mentioned it, Gary. 30 wins, only 24 years old, won't be 25 till January of 2016. So great work by this youngster.
The other unbeaten team is Kansas City. They're playing the Angels tonight. The Reds were unbeaten until this afternoon. They got beat by the Cardinals. 1-2. Breaking ball hit right at the shortstop. Simmons picks it off. Easiest play he'll have. That retires the side. 6 strong innings from Julio Teheran and a 5-0 Atlanta lead. By McDonald's. Stop by McDonald's today for the new 100% sirloin 3rd pound burgers starting at $4.99. Price and participation may vary. Opening day ticket holders arrive early to the game and avoid expected traffic by taking public transportation. Pre-game festivities will start at 12:30 p.m. and the Mets are asking all fans to be in their seats at that time. Thanks in advance. And we'll see you opening day Monday at Citi Field. Do we post the LIRR and subway and bus schedules?
You can find it online. You can find it online.
No, but maybe we could have a public service and we could just scroll down.
Oh, very nice.
On the screen.
Why not?
We should have thought of that. Train will be leaving Woodside at Alex Torres on to pitch for the Mets, his 2nd appearance.
Next stop, Northport. Alex Torres was traded. He originally was signed by the Los Angeles Angels, but was traded to the Tampa Bay Rays in the Scott Kazmir trade.
Does that mean he's come full circle, that he was involved in a Kazmir trade and now he's a Met? Here's Kelly Johnson, who's 1 for 2. He singled to center and struck out. Torres struggled with his control in his first outing. Walked a couple of batters in a 1/3 of an inning and was charged with 2 runs. That was in Washington. And he finds the inside corner to Johnson. Johnson, Callaspo, and Bethancourt for the Braves in the 6th. Atlanta 5 runs, 8 hits. The Mets no runs and 1 hit. So things went pretty well for Dylan G for the first 4 innings, not so much in the 5th. Dylan winds up giving up 4 runs and 8 hits over 5. No walks, 2 strikeouts, and a home run.
You know, for you folks at home, what happens is when you don't have those good breaking pitchers, if you're a pitcher like Dylan G, the 2nd and 3rd time through the lineup, they kind of measure you because you don't have enough weapons to get him out. It all started in that 5th inning with that little parachute off Callaspo's bat.
and then they kept hitting the ball a little harder and a little harder as the inning went along.
I think the theme of their early season for the Braves is what you saw in that inning, right? The ability to put the ball in play, don't strike out. Good things can happen.
Well, just through the first 4 games of the season, the Braves, who were such a high strikeout team the last couple of years, struck out the fewest times of any team in the National League. And obviously, it's an extremely small sample, but it really represents a change in philosophy as much as anything else. And in most cases, a change in personnel. 3-1 for Torres, and it's laced into center field, a base hit. So Kelly Johnson leads off the 6th with a line single to center, and the Braves have their 9th hit.
Well, he got behind Johnson, lefty. You know you're going to get the fastball, and nice hitting by Johnson straight back up the middle.
So Kelly Johnson has his first 2 hits of the season tonight. Well, there you see it. The last 2 years, most strikeouts in the National League in 2013, 3rd most last year, and the fewest so far this year. Alberto Callaspo turns around about right-handed against Torres. He had a pop fly double batting left-handed his last time up, and he takes a strike. Callaspo a little better right-handed than left over the course of his career. 284 from this side of the plate, 260 left-handed.
I was wondering that when you have a shot through the box like that with Torres, who wore the padded hat last year, that must be a scary thing for Alex.
Still plans to wear the newer padded hat with the padding on the outside, but has not gotten it styled to his liking yet. Fly ball hit out to left center, and Lagares comes over, and Callaspo retired, 1 out. So Johnson at first and 1 away. And now Christian Bethancourt, who inside out at a double down the right field line to drive in a run his last time up. Christian Bethancourt at age 23 is the youngest catcher currently in the major leagues. His backup is A.J. Pierzynski, who at age 38 is currently the oldest catcher in the major leagues.
Well, it'll be interesting if A.J. can do a little bit of mentoring with the youngster, although defensively he doesn't need much.
Bethancourt hits it well to center, but Lagares has it lined up, and that's the 2nd out.
Bethancourt they see someday as Salvador Perez kind of catcher. Great defensively. As he fills out, he's going to get stronger.
Well, he's certainly got the defensive tools, and he's got the body that you can project him being a pretty good power hitter at some point. So now Andrelton Simmons. You know, when I read that note about A.J. Pierzynski, you know what it told me? If he's the oldest catcher in the major, that means Henry Blanco is finally retired.
Oh, Hank White.
Former Met Henry Blanco played for everybody. What a delightful guy. I think he's coaching.
Yeah, he is coaching. I think he's a bullpen catcher or something with someone.
Maybe with Arizona.
Arizona, that's where he was, I think, spent a lot of his time. Didn't Henry come up as a 3rd baseman or something in the Dodger organization, didn't he?
Is that right?
Yeah. I think Terry Collins had him when he was a young pup.
You can read the history of baseball on his face. Andrelton Simmons drilled a double down the right field line to drive in a run in that big 5th inning for the Braves. And he takes a slider for a strike.
Well, it always seems as you see Teheran 6 shutout innings so far on deck. We're always complaining about the rain when we're here, so we should say this is about as good an evening as you can get for a baseball game.
It's supposed to have a beautiful day tomorrow for the final game of the series. Inside out swing again, and he barely misses that right field line. Simmons and d'Arnaud sharing a chuckle. d'Arnaud was chuckling last night when Simmons made that great play on him, and of course they were also involved in that home plate collision last night. By the way, we were talking after that collision about the way Simmons came in with his forearm raised and whether the Mets would have challenged that had d'Arnaud not held the ball. And I asked Terry Collins about it today. That's grounded down to Duda, and he said absolutely they would have challenged it based on that arm coming up had d'Arnaud not held the ball. 5-0 Braves after 6. Ran over Travis d'Arnaud.
Nice play here by Kadire, but d'Arnaud braces himself. Big collision. I don't like that part right there. Watch d'Arnaud. Gets caught up. Sees if Simmons is all right. Who cares if he's all right? I don't.
Well, it certainly shouldn't be his first consideration.
But I'm saying the guy's trying to take your head off. You should just get out of there and remember that. But, you know, it's a little nicer.
It's rather an historic play in that with the new rules that were put in last year, it's the first real home plate collision there's been in the major leagues, which would have made a challenge very interesting because that rule about not being able to lead with your arm extended has never been tested. And it would have been interesting to see whether the folks back in New York would have ruled him out had that come to pass.
I'm trying to think about the base runner and how you could brace yourself. I mean, does it allow for a base runner to spear the catcher? Can you run in head first like a football player and run him over? And if you're not extending your hands, that's a worse play, to tell you the truth, than giving him the forearm shiver.
Well, you've got to at least lower your shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself running into a catcher. Lucas Duda has the Mets' only hit tonight, a double back in the first. He hits this one up the middle, and he's got the Mets' second hit of the night. So Duda, a hit to left center, and now a base hit through the middle of the diamond. He's 2 for 3. The rest of the ball club 0 for the night. And now Michael Kadire will bat with a man on.
I was wondering if that almost caught a piece of Teheran, and trying to avoid that ball. I don't know if he tweaked his leg a little bit.
And the trainer's going to come out and have a look.
His right leg, he saw the ball coming towards it, and he tried to get his right leg out of dodge really quickly, and he might have hyperextended it a little bit. Watch the ball. Watch how he tries to kick his foot out of there, and might have hyperextended it a little bit.
Or maybe it's the right leg that kind of crumpled.
Yeah, you're right.
As he kicked the left one out. Either way, it's certainly a concern. He's flexing that right leg. Kicked out with the left, and that right one kind of bent awkwardly.
So it's almost like all his weight landed on that right leg at some point when he was trying to get out of the way. Yeah.
Flexing that right knee and making sure it's okay. He's throwing some warm-up pitches now. And he seems a little unsure. But he's going to stay in. And we'll certainly keep an eye on his next few pitches. So the Mets have a leadoff man on for only the second time tonight, with Michael Kadire coming up. He's trying to fight their way uphill in this game, down 5-0 in the 7th. Kadire's been up twice, struck out both times. Getting back to the home plate collision thing, talking to Terry Collins today, he said that the Mets made it a point during spring training to do a little better job educating runners on what they're able to do in those situations, and specifically about the fact that if a catcher has the ball and he's blocking the plate, you can take him out, just the way Simmons attempted to do last night. Last year it seemed as though most runners were confused about what their responsibilities were under the new rule. The other piece of that is that d'Arnaud looked absolutely prepared for what was about to happen, and afterward said how much he loved the home plate collision.
He likes the contact.
Said it's the best part of being a catcher. And that's ball 4. 4 very close pitches, and Teheran gives up his 3rd walk of the night. So just like that, the Mets have a couple of men on. Daniel Murphy coming up. Round the Majors brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. White Sox got an RBI single in the bottom of the 8th from J.B. Shuck and beat the Twins 5-4. Chris Archer was splendid for the Rays. 1 hit over 7 innings. They beat the Marlins 2-0. Miami falls to 1-4. And the Cubs on top of the unbeaten Rockies 3-0.
Fowler might have found himself a home, huh, in Chicago?
Brandon Caniff is up in the Atlanta bullpen. We were mispronouncing his name last night.
So it's Caniff?
Caniff.
Not a Kanish.
Well, you know, John Cuniff is a, you know, famous basketball name, but he spells it the same way, but pronounces it Caniff.
Caniff. Okay. Well, a chance for the Mets to get back into this game.
Murphy 0 for 2 tonight. He's grounded out and struck out. So Teheran, after tweaking his knee, walks Kadire on 4 pitches and now faces Murph with 2 men on and gets 1 over for a strike. Teheran has now walked 3, struck out 5, given up 2 hits, both of them to Lucas Duda, who's on second. Kadire at first with nobody out.
It's amazing when you think about pitching, or I mean, just a little bit out of sort here is Teheran, and it's changed his whole control and ability to throw his breaking pitch as he waits for that knee to get a little better.
Now that's his push-off leg. Sometimes I think that's less of an impediment than the landing leg would be.
It is less, but I saw the first 2 pitches to Kadire were fastballs that are in the 87, 88 range. He's been throwing 90 plus all night, so he was just throwing a little tentative not to push off that leg too much.
Murphy at the plate, Lagares on deck. And slider misses. 2-2.
First difficult inning. Teheran hasn't thrown more than 14 pitches in any inning. You see the motion, opens that front side up, and he lands with almost pushes off where both feet end up in the air.
Now the 2-2 to Murphy, and he bounces one, and now it's a full count. So Teheran just not looking like the same guy after tweaking his knee, and this could well be his last batter. Lagares waiting to follow. 3-2 to Murphy with nobody out. And Murph fouls away the fastball. That's again their bullpen cranking as they work toward the bottom of the order. Sean Gilmartin is up after Alex Torres worked the bottom of the 6th. Pickoff try, and Duda just got his hand back. Very close.
Well, Teheran's a great athlete. Simmons is so quick. Lulled Duda to sleep a little bit, and that quick move almost got him. High tag produced the safe call on Duda's shoulder.
Second base umpire Jim Reynolds in good position to make the call. Well, we talked about Teheran's pickoff move at first base. That's an added bonus. There aren't too many Ron Darlings around who have good moves to first and second.
That's a good one right there. Because you know why it's good? It came out of nowhere. Not expecting it.
Again, the 3-2. And Murphy takes ball 4, and the bases are loaded. So just like that, the Mets are presented with an opportunity. Back-to-back walks issued by Teheran after he tweaked his knee getting out of the way of Duda's hit. And let's see what Freddie Gonzalez decides to do. Do you stick with Teheran, or do you bring in a fresh arm with Lagares coming up?
I think I'd give him one more hitter, Gary.
So an extra base hit, and the Mets would be right back in this ball game. Lagares 0 for 2 tonight, grounded out and popped up. Bases loaded, nobody out. And a fastball in for a strike. He's got it back to 92.
It's a little anger when the bases get loaded.
15 pitches this inning, the most he's thrown in any inning tonight. Duda, Kadire, and Murphy the base runners. And Lagares waving at the slider. That's a big pitch right there. Now Teheran ahead 0-2.
Just so much late break from the breaking ball of Teheran.
It's been a struggle for Lagares early in the year after a great spring training. Just 3 for 18 to start the year. And he's able to lay off that slider. 1-2.
It's nice when you have a young catcher that you're not afraid to bounce a pitch. You know he's going to make the stop. That was textbook. Sandy Alomar Jr. would be proud of that stop.
How about Charles Johnson?
Yeah, again, a tall
another big guy
catcher
who was great at blocking pitches in the dirt. 1-2, and Lagares trying to wait on it, fouls it back. Teheran got that breaking ball up. Travis d'Arnaud waiting on deck. Duda at third, Kadire at second, Murphy at first, and nobody out. Mets with their first real threat tonight. And Teheran wants Bethancourt to go through the signs again. Again, the 1-2. Breaking ball, bounced to third. Callaspo boots it and has no play. The Mets get their first run of the night. Could have been a double play ball. Instead, it's an error on Callaspo that brings in Duda with the first Met run. It's now 5-1. And just like that, the Mets will get the tying run to the plate.
Well, Callaspo is trying to be too quick. He didn't need to be with Duda. See what happened? Took his eye off the baseball to look at home plate to make that throw.
But why is he even thinking about home plate? Why isn't he throwing to second?
To make two, going to the left, exactly.
See if they give an RBI on the play. But if he was looking to throw home, I guess they should not give an RBI. In any event, it's d'Arnaud at the plate. Bases still loaded, still nobody out. It's now 5-1. First pitch breaking ball is high. d'Arnaud didn't miss hitting one out by much his last time up. Sent Johnson halfway back on the warning track in left field in the 5th inning. Kadire now at third, Murphy at second, and Lagares at first. Mets did a great job cashing in on errors in their series in Washington. See if they can do it here after a big error by Callaspo. There's a good slider by Teheran, 1-1.
Watch his head. See where it is? He's looking right at home plate, not looking the ball in.
I mean, he was turning to throw home.
Yeah. Oh, no. I saw him as coming home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just don't understand why that would be his play.
It was almost like he was going to protect the shutout. I mean, that's not the play. If you move to your left, you go for 2.
And d'Arnaud is hit in the back, and that forces in a run. So Teheran drills d'Arnaud. Kadire comes in to score. It's now 5-2, and the Mets have the tying runs on base. And now they'll finally pull the plug on Teheran. Freddie Gonzalez heads out to the mound. So Teheran gives up a hit to Duda, tweaks his knee, and never retires another batter. The Mets have 2 runs home in the inning, 3 more aboard, and nobody out, and Teheran will take his exit. This call to the bullpen is brought to you by Chase, so you can easily master the way you bank. Mets rallying in the 7th, trailing 5-2. We'll be right back to Turner Field. Look at the dancing waters in Centennial Park here in Atlanta, as Brandon Caniff comes into the game in relief of Julio Teheran, who is pitching a gem through 6 but has seen it slowly fall apart here in the 7th. Murphy at 3rd, Lagares at 2nd, d'Arnaud at 1st, and nobody out. 2 runs home in the inning, and Wilmer Flores at the plate. And Flores, first pitch swinging, hits it right to Simmons. Peterson with the turn, a run scores to make it 5-3. But that puts a major crimp in the Mets' rally hopes. Murphy scores the 3rd run of the inning. Now 2 out and a runner at 3rd.
Well, that ball hit right on the nose by Flores, but at the wrong man. He made a tough play look easy, Simmons. Then they turned to 2.
Now Kirk Neuenhuis will bat for Alex Torres, and Freddie Gonzalez is on his way out. He wants to make a double switch now, as he did last night. He'll bring in a left-hander to face Neuenhuis. So Caniff comes in, throws 1 pitch, and gets 2 outs. That's great efficiency. In fact, the Braves bullpen has been almost perfect this year. They have not yet given up a run in 15 2/3 innings. Luis Avilan is coming in. Call to the bullpen is brought to you by Chase, so you can easily master the way you bank. Mets have 3 runs home here in the 7th. We'll be right back to Atlanta. It's Kelly Johnson moves from left field to third base. Eric Young moves from center field to left field. Cameron Maybin comes in the game to play center field. Maybin will bat ninth. And the new pitcher, Luis Avilan, will hit in Callaspo's spot. That's the number 6 spot of the order.
We saw Avilan in last night's game 2 seasons ago, had his best season. Last year struggled a bit, even spent some time in the minor leagues, but had a good spring.
It's been an odd inning for the Mets. Duda led off with a base hit, and then a compromised Teheran walked a couple of batters, had a bad play made behind him by Callaspo, booted it for an error and a run. By the way, they gave an RBI to Lagares on that ground ball. Then Darno was hit in the back by a pitch to force in a run before Cuniff came in to get a double play ball as a 3rd run scored. Now Ruben Tejada will bat for Kirk Neuenhuis, who was batting for the pitcher. So the Mets will have used up 3/4 of their bench as Tejada gets the turn at bat here with a runner at 3rd and 2 out. And he takes the loan away from Avilan. Ruben getting his first plate appearance of the year. He's due to make a start at shortstop tomorrow afternoon. And Tejada pulls one down to 3rd. Kelly Johnson, who just moved over there, makes the play, and that retires the side. So the Mets making a ball game. They get 3 in the top of the 7th and trail 5-3 at the 7th inning stretch. But they parlayed that into 3 runs. 2 of them will be unearned, the result of the Callaspo error. That was very interesting. Yeah. The Mets just took the field here in the bottom of the 7th. Ruben Tejada, who pinch hit, went out into the field, but he's not in the game.
And brought Flores back out.
That was very odd. I don't think I've seen that in a long time. If you were Freddie Gonzalez, could you say that Tejada was in the game and that Flores should not be allowed to come back?
Yeah, I mean,
that was very odd. In any event, Sean Gilmartin's on the pitch.
Pitched in last night's game, faced Markakis and Freeman, struck out Freeman.
He'll face Cameron Maybin, who just came in the double switch. Maybin went 1 for 5 last night, including a leadoff home run against John Neese. 5-3 Atlanta as we start the bottom of the 7th. And the first pitch breaking ball from Gilmartin misses. Well, Tejada was out there taking ground balls, thinking he was in the game after pinch hitting, and, well, actually, no. No, you're not.
Go sit down.
Gilmartin misses with a changeup, and it's 2-0. Well, it was interesting watching Gilmartin last night because he's a guy who has been a starting pitcher in the minor leagues and had reverse splits, better against righties than against lefties, and he was brought in to get 2 left-hand hitters out and did it successfully.
Well, he had all of spring training. They called him in and they said, hey, listen, if you're going to make this team, you're going to make it as a reliever. He immediately asked Dan Warthen and Terry Collins, well, what would you do if you were in my position? And Dan Warthen said, we're going to, eliminate maybe when you come in a real tough circumstance, you're maybe going to, especially against a lefty, go and use that slider and fastball as to how to slow this down. But starting an inning, especially against the right-handers, you can include that changeup.
Down the right field line, slicing away, and that'll go in the crowd. The other thing that Gilmartin has done is when he was a starter, he worked from the third base side of the rubber because that enhanced his changeup against the right-hand hitters. Now he's moved to the first base side of the rubber.
And they said he was very willing, well, especially when you're Rule 5 and you're trying to make the team, you'll do whatever they tell you to do. But it is an adjustment.
Slow ground ball. Flores comes in to get it. And he's been accurate with his throws all night. He gets Maben for the first out. I guess my question would be, moving over to that first base side of the rubber, which is intended to enhance his breaking stuff against the lefties, how does that affect him pitching against the righties?
Well, I think what he has to do is make sure that release point is going to be a little different for that changeup to the right-handed hitters. But when he's all the way over there, the reason you do that is lefty-lefty. It almost looks like that breaking ball is coming behind you. That's why you do that. Got the real stirrups working.
Yeah, old school. He'll face Eric Young, and he takes a curveball for a strike. Young turning around about right-handed. He pulled a triple down the left field, down the right field line, batting left-handed in the 5th, and that drove in a run in that 4-run 5th for the Braves. He lays off the changeup, and it's 1-1.
Martin doesn't throw too hard. He doesn't overthrow. Got a good breaking ball, fastball, changeup. Like you said, starting pitcher in a reliever's position.
Pitching against the organization that originally drafted him. He was a first-round pick of the Braves back in 2011. And traded to the Twins, and that's from whom the Mets grabbed him in the Rule 5 draft.
I think he makes his home here, doesn't he, Gary? He kept his home here in Atlanta.
Just outside Atlanta. 1-2 to Eric Young with Jace Peterson on deck. Bouncing ball to Murphy's right. Has to be quick with it, and does in time to get Young. Murph's made some really nice plays the last couple of nights.
Well, he made that play up the middle on, I think, Tyler Moore in the Washington series. That was a beautiful play. And this one, not easy because of the man running.
Also had the play coming in against Markakis last night.
That's right.
Where he made the bare hand play. So 2 out and nobody on ground balls. So Gilmartin's faced 4 batters in the big leagues and retired them all. Now we'll take on the left-hand hitter Jace Peterson, who's 0 for 3 tonight. He starts in with a curveball for a strike. So it's pretty clear what his game plan is against the righties. A lot of changeups. Against the lefties, a lot of curveballs.
He'll throw enough fastballs to keep you thinking about the fastball. But he pitches with his breaking pitches.
24 years old. Came out of Florida State University. The California kid who played at Florida State. It's a little unusual.
Yeah.
Oh-2 to Peterson. Fastball, and he almost plunks one down the line with that late cut. Victory is hers.
Just have a small problem there when you have the 2 boys and the 1 baseball. It doesn't always work.
Now looking for the Solomonic solution.
No,
get out the hacksaw and just cut it in half.
No. But the young guy on the right, he seems pretty cool about it.
He's older.
He's got the foam finger.
He's probably had the baseball at some previous event. His younger brother was Just a theory.
Now it's rolling around on the ground.
If it rolls for too long, the older kid will pounce. You know that.
It's a hard seat to have at that young of age, you know. But where do you go from there?
Breaking ball got him. Good inning for Sean Gilmartin as he strikes out Peterson, and he sets the Braves down 1-2-3. Let's go back to work in the 8th, trailing 5-3. Big cigar.
The Maverick.
Of course, the great Hank Aaron, 1974, the year he broke Babe Ruth's all-time home run record. In-game box score brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. The Mets have had only 2 hits tonight. They both belong to Lucas Duda, but they were able to scratch out 3 runs in the 7th inning to get back in this ball game. Now they'll have the top of the batting order up against Luis Avilan in the 8th. Curtis Granderson will lead off. Granderson 0 for 2, drew a walk his last time up. And Curtis leans out of the way of the breaking ball for ball 1. Granderson right and Duda. Julio Teheran went 6 innings plus, allowed 3 runs, only 1 of them earned on 2 hits. Wound up walking 4. And hitting a batter. Brandon Caniff threw 1 pitch, got 2 outs, and then Avilan got Tejada to ground out to end the 7th.
I don't think you have a better relief outing than that, right?
Fly ball to left, and Eric Young is there to retire Granderson one away. Well, the Braves bullpen has now worked 16 1/3 innings, and they still have not given up a run. This is a bullpen that everybody thought was vastly diminished with the trade they made on the eve of opening day, sending Craig Kimbrell to San Diego. So far, they haven't missed a beat. Here's David Wright, who's hit a couple of balls hard tonight. He's lined to center, lined to short. In between, he struck out. Fly ball, center field, chasing Maben back, way back onto the warning track, and he runs it down. So David Wright, who's hit 19 home runs in this ballpark, 1 shy of the record for a visitor, making a bid for another. Out of town scores brought to you by Dodge. Born Dodge. Michael Wacha, 6 1/3 innings for the win as the Reds lose for the first time. Chris Archer, 7 terrific innings for the Rays in their win. The Nats on top of the Phillies, and Cole Hamels 2-0 in the 8th. The Brewers still looking for their first win, well on their way. Rockies trying to stay unbeaten, down 5-3 against the Cubs. Kershaw against Archie Bradley, making his major league debut, and the Diamondbacks on top of Kershaw and the Dodgers tonight. Here's Duda, who has both met hits tonight. A double to left center in the first, a single up the middle in the seventh. Also, the Padres have put 2 up against Madison Bumgarner in the first inning in San Diego. So Kershaw and Bumgarner both pitching on the same night and giving up a couple of runs early. Juan Jaime is up in the bullpen for Atlanta. Avilan has made quick work of the 3 batters he's faced, but he's behind Duda 2-0 with Kadire on deck. And I would imagine if Duda were to get aboard, we'd see Jaime to come in and face the right-hand batter.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but 2 runs down, this would be a perfect time to bunt for a base hit if you're a Lucas. Kadire shot to tie it up.
They're certainly giving him that. Fouled off the foot of Duda. 2-2.
He's got that pad to protect his shin, but it doesn't go all the way and cover the entire right foot. And he hit that right off the top of the arch.
Ronnie, he's not going to do it now with 2 strikes, but are you less likely to bunt if you're Duda with a lefty on the mound who's going to fall off to the third base line?
Yeah, but he's not going to be in the play. I mean, if you do it properly, you're going to bunt it hard, or you take him out of play. You know, the only issue is that Superman at shortstop. He might sense something and come in and make the play.
That would be something. Duda lays off that breaking ball and works the count forward.
Well, Philden Colbert has had a good night behind the plate. He's been spot on. That breaking ball, Avilan thought it caught some of the plate. Bethancourt caught it just off the plate.
Maybe the front edge.
Yeah.
It's the way the Braves used to work, right? 3-2 coming to Duda, and a pop-up into shallow center. Peterson making the call, and he puts it away to retire the side. So Avilan sets the Mets down 1-2-3 in the 8th. Still 5-3 Atlanta. On.com. Freddie Freeman hit the early home run off Dylan G, and then the Braves bunched 5 hits and a 4-run 5th to take a 5-0 lead before the Mets rallied to cut it to a 2-run game. Nick Markakis leads off against Sean Gilmartin in the 8th. Markakis 2 for 3 tonight, and he takes ball 1. Gil Martin worked a 1-2-3 seventh. He's now faced 5 big league batters and retired them all, including Markakis last night. And Markakis fouls off the curve. He got Markakis on a ground ball to third, and then struck out Freddie Freeman in his big league debut last night. He's got Freeman on deck again. Mets 3 runs, 2 hits. The Braves 5 runs and 9 hits. We're in the bottom of the 8th. See whether the Braves go back to Jason Grilli for the save chance. Well, it's not Jim Johnson. It's Jim Johnson, who looked fantastic last night in the setup role. But I had a suspicion they wouldn't go back to Grilli. 38 years old. You don't want to push him too hard the first week of the season.
Well, I think having the luxury of having 2 of those guys that were excellent closers gives them the luxury, if one guy has pitched too much, to go to the other guy.
And Grilli really worked hard last night in getting through the 9th inning. Through 28 pitches. Up and away in the full count to Markakis. Johnson, on the other hand, had that power sinker working and just blew through the Mets in the 8th with 3 strikeouts. 3-2 from Gil Martin, and Markakis hits it out to right field, but right there is Granderson waiting. And Markakis retired 1 away. Well, Freddie Freeman represented the first run of the game, brought to you by Verizon Fios, the fastest, most reliable internet. He was back in the 2nd, leading off against Dylan G. Just got it beyond the reach of Granderson for his first home run of the year.
Well, you've got to be impressed with this Braves team in the first couple of games where they put the ball in play, but still, all roads go through Freeman. If you're going to retire him, then you have a chance.
Gil Martin struck him out last night. And starts him off up and in for ball 1.
All you kids out there, if you watch Freddie Freeman, chokes up on the bat. Very unusual in today's game.
It's funny about that, isn't it? Because for all those years, Barry Bonds choked up on the bat, and you would have thought, well, the guy is putting up numbers that nobody ever has before. Why doesn't that breed more imitation?
I mean, when I was a kid, you would always try to imitate who was the hot hitter of the day. You'd take his stance, and it would be your own. It was difficult for me through the Yastrzemski years.
Holding that bat up high. I used to think, watching Craig Counsell, that he might have been a Carl Yastrzemski fan.
They both went to the same school, right? Notre Dame. Good breaking ball from Gil Martin. Freeman tried to wait back on it, but couldn't.
1-2 coming. Struck him out. So Gil Martin strikes out Freeman for the 2nd straight night. 5 up and 5 down for Gil Martin. 2 out and nobody on. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda is KBB.com's lowest cost to own brand over 5 years. Now Chris Johnson will be the pitch hitter, and Terry Collins out to the mound, so it looks like Gil Martin's work is done. So he's now faced 7 batters in the big leagues and retired them all, 5 of them tonight. So quite a start to the big league career of Sean Gil Martin. This call to the bullpen is brought to you by Chase, so you can easily master the way you bank. Eric Udell coming on for the Mets. We'll be right back.
Last night getting an inning of work. Here into retired Chris Johnson. It looks like he's going to hit for Kelly Johnson. Interesting move here late in the game.
Well, the Mets are carrying 8 relievers, but if you missed the news earlier today, their erstwhile closer Henry Mejia will not be pitching for the Mets for a long time. Suspended for 80 games for a violation of the drug policy. Tested positive for a banned steroid.
I don't know if we mentioned it either. A new rule that has come in with those 80-game suspensions.
I did not know about this, honestly, but it has come to light that any player now who is suspended during a season for violating the drug policy is ineligible for the postseason that year. So even if he completes a suspension, he would not be eligible should the Mets make it to the postseason this year. And that's obviously a crueler blow. Chris Johnson's batting for Kelly Johnson, and he takes outside 2-0. So that's another hammer in that drug policy, which has gotten tougher and tougher. It used to be first 25 games and 50 games for a first offense. Now it's 80 games, and now a postseason ban as well. Chris Johnson lifts one shallow right. On comes Granderson, and that retires the side. So Goodell gets his man, and the Mets will come up in the 9th with Kadire, Murphy, and Lagares due up, trailing 5-3. That on Pix 11, New York's home for baseball. That's the Mets and the Marlins next Saturday at 7 on Pix 11. Play of the game brought to you by the Honda Dream Garage Sales Event, now at your Honda dealer. Mets have the bases loaded in the 7th inning, and the Braves turned a big double play, a run scored to make it 5-3, but that kept the Mets out of a bigger inning. And the Mets have not had a base runner since. So let's get it straight here. Chris Johnson replaces Kelly Johnson, for whom he pinch hit. He's at third base, and Jim Johnson is now on the mound. Got all our Johnsons straight.
And Jim Johnson, when he was with the Baltimore Orioles, a 2-year stretch, he saved 101 ball games. Trying to work his way back, though, from a difficult year last year.
Michael Kadire struck out against Johnson last night. He takes low ball 1. Kadire, Murphy, and Lagares for the Mets in the 9th. Trying to avoid losing 2 straight here in Atlanta. Fastball strike 1-1. Well, Jim Johnson, who had a dreadful year last year, has looked just tremendous. He was overpowering with his hard sinker last night. Struck out 3, gave up an infield hit in his inning of work. And he finds the knee-high strike to get ahead on Kadire, 1-2. just off the plate. 2-2. Dyer 0 for 5 in his career against Johnson. Murphy to follow. Mets have been limited to just 2 hits tonight, both by Lucas Duda. Easy hop for Peterson to handle. 1 out.
When Johnson's at his best, he's getting a lot of those weak ground balls to the infield. 6'6", 240. I don't know where Johnson City, New York is, Gary.
I know where Johnson City, Tennessee
is. I do too.
Right next to Kingsport. Danny Murphy shoots one right at Andrelton Simmons, and quickly there are 2 out. So just like that, the Mets are down to their final out of the night with Juan Lagares coming up. Lagares tonight 0 for 3. Last time up with the bases loaded, and a ground ball right at the third baseman Callaspo that was booted for an error that brought in the first Met run. Lagares got credit for a run batted in his first of the year. 2 out and nobody on. And Lagares takes one right down the middle with 96 miles an hour. Lagares trying to get on any way he can for Travis d'Arnaud, who waits on deck. Johnson, and the Mets are down to their final strength.
All sinkers till this pitch, and a good curveball from Johnson.
To Lagares, and he runs it inside. 1-2.
It's the setup pitch there. Push Lagares off the plate. Now he can go back to that breaking ball away or fastball paint that he threw to Dyer.
Lagares facing Johnson for the first time. 1-2. And he bounces that one. 2-2. Julio Teheran went 6 innings plus. He stands to win it. Brandon Caniff threw 1 pitch and got 2 outs. Luis Avilan faced 4 batters and retired them all. The Braves bullpen remains unscored upon in the first week of the season. 2-2. And that misses, and Lagares able to work the count full. So Lagares has gone from 0-2 to 3-2.
Almost off the rubber from that first base side.
Top foul. It's where Kevin Brown used to operate
right.
from. That extreme first base side of the rubber.
Only just like your toe really catches the end of that rubber.
Another guy with a devastating sinker.
Just barely.
Again, the 3-2 to Lagares. And again, he just got a piece to hang in. Braves trying to go to 5-0 on the season for the first time since 1994. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming to Lagares. And he chops one. He might beat it out. And Chris Johnson and Simmons get messed up. I think Lagares was going to beat that play anyway, but he's got an infield hit, and the Mets get the tying run to the plate in the 9th. A Baltimore chop.
Well, you mentioned today that Chris Johnson is going to stop diving because Andrelton Simmons makes every play, but he shouldn't have gave him that play. He should have fielded and tried to make a play.
So Travis d'Arnaud comes to the plate. Mets are down to their final strike, looking for a bloop and a blast. We'll settle for a chop and a blast. d'Arnaud was hit in the back by a pitch to force in a run in the 7th. 0 for 2 on the night. And d'Arnaud hammers one foul down past Tim Teufel, who took evasive action.
Well, when you hit the ball far back, it'll hit right on the end of the plate there. And the plate, of course, made of that hard rubber surface. That's why it ends up so high in the air.
0-1 to d'Arnaud. And Travis hits one toward the middle. Simmons to his left. And he throws low, but dug out by Freeman, and the ball game is over. Simmons takes care of d'Arnaud again. And the Mets have dropped the first two in Atlanta as the Braves win it for the second straight night, 5-3.
Well, it was too much Julio Teheran early in the game. 6+ innings. He hurt himself a little and got a little out of sort when the Mets scored 3 runs. But Dylan G had a pretty good first 4 innings, but then couldn't really get through the 5th as the Braves got up 5-0 and held on to the lead. As that bullpen of the Braves now still perfect on the season.
They've now gone 18 innings over the first 5 games without allowing a run, and that helped Julio Teheran hang on after staggering in the 7th. Gave up 3 runs in that inning, but the bullpen shut the door. Lucas Duda had 2 of the 3 Met hits. The game summary brought to you by the generously appointed Lexus ES and ES